My sister leaned close to me and whispered, "I think he's going to propose." Her fingers grabbed my arm so tightly I could feel her excitement. I quickly turned my head to look. Too quickly. My glass shook and I nearly spilled it. And there he was. Evan. On one knee. Holding a tiny, shiny ring in his hand. For a second, everything stopped. Even my heart. Just that morning, I'd woken up thinking it would be a regular anniversary dinner. Evan and I had been dating for almost 3 years. We were comfortable. The kind of couple who could finish each other's sentences, argue over pizza toppings, and spend Sundays doing nothing together. But we hadn't talked about marriage seriously. Once or twice in passing, maybe. He'd joked once about getting married in space if it ever became affordable. I laughed, called him ridiculous, and the moment passed. Tonight was supposed to be dinner and maybe a walk by the lake. I'd picked a dress I liked but hadn't overthought it. I hadn't even gotten my nails done. Now, sitting in the middle of La Lumiere, with diners turning to watch, with the soft clink of silverware giving way to whispers and stares, I realized this was anything but a regular night. Evan looked up at me, his smile nervous but sincere, the small velvet box trembling slightly in his hand. "Clara," he said, voice slightly hoarse, "you make every day brighter, every laugh louder, and every burden lighter. I can't imagine my life without you." Then came the words that made my stomach twist. "Will you marry me?" I blinked. My hands were cold, my mouth dry. I hadn't expected this. Not tonight. Not like this. Memories rushed in like a flood. Our first date, when he spilled coffee on himself trying to impress me. The time he drove 4 hours just to bring me soup when I was sick. The little notes he left on my desk when I had a bad day. But also, the doubts. The times we argued about where to live, how many kids we'd want, even about my job, which he sometimes said took too much of my time. We hadn't resolved everything. I glanced at the ring. It was beautiful. Simple, elegant. A solitaire diamond on a thin gold band. He knew I didn't like flashy things. My sister nudged me from the side, whispering, "Say something." Evan was still waiting. Kneeling, vulnerable, hopeful. And I was frozen. Would saying yes be the right thing? Would saying no break us? Or was this fear just a symptom of the surprise? After all, isn't love sometimes about jumping in? A tear slipped down my cheek. I stood, slowly. My knees wobbled. The room felt hushed, like the world was holding its breath. Evan's eyes searched mine. I took a step forward and dropped to my knees, mirroring him. A nervous laugh escaped my lips as I wiped my cheek. "You idiot," I whispered. "You really caught me off guard." He grinned. "Is that a yes?" I looked at the ring again. Not the diamond, not the gold, but what it meant. Not just love, but commitment. Not perfection, but trying. Together. "Yes," I said, firmly this time. "Yes, I'll marry you." The restaurant erupted in applause. Someone even whistled. Evan slipped the ring onto my finger, and I couldn't stop the tears that followed. We sat back down, both of us shaking a little, laughing through our tears. The waiter brought champagne on the house. My sister was crying into her napkin, mouthing, "Finally." Later, as we walked by the lake, fingers intertwined, Evan looked over and said, "I was terrified you'd say no." I almost did, I admitted. Not because I didn't love you, just because I didn't see it coming. He nodded. I wanted it to be a surprise. "It was," I said, smiling. "But the best kind." The stars were out, glittering above the still water. I squeezed his hand and knew. This wasn't just a happy ending. It was a beginning. Let's look at some beautiful sentences from this story in simple words. When someone says, "I think he's going to propose," it just means they believe a man is about to ask his girlfriend to marry him, usually by giving her a ring and saying something like, "Will you marry me?" Now, when she says, "I'd picked a dress I liked but hadn't overthought it," she means she chose a dress she thought was nice. But she didn't stress too much about it or spend hours worrying if it was the perfect choice. She just picked it and didn't overthink. If a person's voice is slightly hoarse, it means their voice sounds a little rough, scratchy, or tired. Maybe from being emotional, nervous, or having a sore throat. Then there's the words that made my stomach twist. This is not about real pain. It describes a feeling when you hear something surprising or emotional that makes you feel strange inside, like nerves or excitement, and your stomach reacts. When she says memories rushed in like a flood, she means suddenly. Lots of old memories came back to her mind very quickly, all at once, as if they poured in like a huge wave of water. We hadn't resolved everything simply means there were still some problems or unfinished talks between them. They hadn't figured everything out yet or cleared up some issues in their relationship. Then comes, "My sister nudged me from the side." A nudge is a small push with the elbow or hand. So here, her sister gently pushed her to get her attention or to say, "Look," without speaking. When she says a tear slipped down my cheek, she's describing that a tear quietly and slowly rolled down her face because she was emotional, maybe touched or overwhelmed. Now, "my knees wobbled" means her legs felt shaky and weak, like when you're so surprised or nervous that it's hard to stand steady. When someone tells you, "You really caught me off guard," they mean you surprised them when they weren't expecting it. It's like saying, "I wasn't ready for this moment." Finally, when you hear "fingers intertwined," it means two people are holding hands in a special way where their fingers are wrapped or weaved together, showing closeness and affection.